You feel like you deserve it because you work so hard, like night and day, proving yourself. And no one comes in and tells you, well, you did a great job. You're doing a great job. And you can get that raise, but just not that team lead position, because team lead requires a different set of skills. What, am I not the kind of person people want to be led by? You kind of make meaning of statements like that. And why didn't anyone tell me this before? Like, why are you telling me now?
From Six Story, I'm your producer, Diana Hong, and you're listening to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda again, the show where we talk with entrepreneurs in Toronto about the stories behind their success and the lessons they've learned along the way. And now your host, Hilda again.
Hilda again, Rev Up Your Potential. We're into season 2, and today my guest is Anu Yogeshwaran. She is the founder and owner of Anu's Gen Z Public Speaking and Leadership Skills School. Welcome, Anu, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Hilda. Thank you for asking me to join you here.
So, Anu, for those who don't know who you are and what you do, we did have that brief intro, but could you share with us a little bit more about who you are and what you actually are doing as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, Hilda, I am a Gen Z coach. So I coach Gen Zs. They're from the age of 10 to 20 to become confident communicators and better decision makers and authentic influencers. In fact, really strong leaders so that they can make this enormous impact in their life in the future, in the world that they will see in the future.
How did you come to create this? Tell us a little bit about your journey and some of the key highlights of your life that brought you to, I'm going to start this. I'm going to start this school for Gen Zs.
When I say Gen Zs, I'm talking about age 10 to 20. That's the age bracket that I work with, because that's usually a question, especially like Gen Z, Gen A, Millennial. I'm so confused. So it's 10 to 20. And how I came about it, like with every entrepreneur, it starts from a stage in your childhood when I was raised, I felt like there was a path that was laid out for me. For the good or bad, parents usually lay out a path for you, and you don't question that path. And the path that was set for me was, hey, get into the sciences, get into engineering, something, not engineering, but computer science. If you immigrate to Canada with a computer science degree, there are more chances for a job. And I thought, great, yeah, let's do that, because that's the path that was set. And I seem to be okay in computer science. But here was the thing, when you get a job and you're recognizing in the corporate ladder, there's so many levels, right? You start as an analyst and then you go on to become a manager, team lead manager, C-suite, director, whatever it is. Those are the levels that are there when you get into corporate Canada, which I wasn't very aware of till I got into corporate Canada. And these hurdles that I faced to move up the ladder was really the start of my story and the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. I had a good set of mentors and coaches who said, you're really good at delivering your independent tasks. You're really good at the technical stuff. But to empower a team, to build a team, you need a whole different set of skills. And I look back and I'm thinking, why didn't anyone teach me these skills? If that was the case, why didn't anyone teach me these skills? Oh, so it's not just competition, it's collaboration. It's not just telling people, it's listening to people. It's not just you doing a task together, it's empowering a whole team to do. All these things require these, what they call as soft skills, or they call leadership skills. I call it as power and success skills.
I love that phrase, by the way. I love that phrase. I called them the non-technical skills or the soft skills, but I love what you just said, power.
Yeah, the power skills, success skills, or global competency skills. I've heard a number. Now that when you're diving into this, you realize there's so many words to it. That will really help people just work with people and scale companies, build companies. There's a plethora of things that you can do with these skills. And so I learned it slowly, of course, with coaches and mentors and joining programs as such in my adult life.
And when you're saying you learned that, are you talking in your 20s or in your 30s when you learned these power skills?
In my 20s. Yeah.
Okay,
So
good,
in my
good.
20s is when I learned those power skills. I mean, slowly and surely, right? You're faced with situations. You're like, can someone help me? And there's like, oh, there's this person who knows how to delegate really well, or who knows how to mediate, or who knows how to negotiate. I'm like, and there's a course on that? Yeah, go for it. Okay, sign up. And I just got immersed in learning these skills and started teaching adults as well. So once you learn it, you realize the value and you're thinking, oh my God, imagine a whole team knowing this, like my team knowing about this. And so that my journey of teaching adults started that way. So I would work and teach adults these skills. And then someone approached me and said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if kids knew about this? And I thought, well, I'm not sure. It might be too complicated for them. We need to really, break it down maybe. But I was open to it mainly because I recognized that if I had these skills at a younger age, then my trajectory would have been a little more different than what it is right now. No regrets, but so I was just open to this idea of teaching kids these skills and breaking down and coming up with a program on that. Yeah. So that is how I got into this whole teaching kids about leadership and public speaking and effective communication and all these power skills. And I go into schools, or I teach at extracurricular activities, I just teach one-on-one.
It sounds like you had some bumps along the way. I want to be this, but they're telling me I need this. Why didn't I get that at school? What is your thought on that? Why didn't you get that at school? Because obviously that drove you to start this business.
I think when I was learning, maybe it's also my focus was if I learned computer science really well, and if I got technical, I would get a job. So my focus was, let's get a job. And how do you get that job? Yeah. It's learning coding, it's learning math, engineering, and that's going to get me a job. Yeah. I don't think I had anyone come to me and say, hey, have you contemplated leading a team? Or for example, I mean, I have kids now and they say, oh, working on projects with this many people is awful. I don't want this person. Like, let's think about that, right? You will be working with people who are not totally in alignment in value and strengths as you, but still will be working with them. There's this whole diverse culture. I don't think anyone had that kind of conversation with me as I was studying till I got into corporate Canada. And I remember my mentor saying to me, well, what got you here will not get you there. Like, what?
That was great advice. Great advice.
I know. Well, yeah, but at that time, I'm like, well, I got here with a lot of hard work, and I went through so many courses, and what's going on here? So I think it's just awareness of maybe I wasn't aware at that point that there are these schools of thought on global competency skills or soft skills. I don't think it was there as much as it is right now.
Yeah, I think it's more now. I remember when my husband and I had our engineering company, and I created our education program. So we had mentorship program, and we had performance evaluations, and we had lunch and learns. The lunch and learns were every 2 weeks we would provide lunch, get them there, and one would be technical, learning about something in the business that will help them grow from a professional technical perspective. And then the other second week of the month would be on either a personal lifestyle thing or a non-technical, as you call, power success skills, networking, communicating, team building. And I remember one of the younger engineers coming and said, why do we have to take these things? I said, it's a free lunch. You don't have to take it, but it's a free lunch. 2 years later, he said, Hilda, thank you. I know why you made this opportunity for us. I know why you did this, and I thank you. He went on to become one of our project managers. So those were life skills, because I recognize the same thing too, is that people don't have these, when they're promoted based on their technical skills, not necessarily on their leadership success skills with people.
Oh, yeah. Nowadays, like first-time managers, even nowadays, right? It's based on how well you do. I guess I was part of a good environment where they don't just promote people to management just because they are really strong technically, which kind of helped my trajectory to learn about these power skills, which make me the person that I am. But many companies do that still, right? Where, oh, this person's a great individual contributor. This person's got great results technically. So let's just make them a team lead.
Yeah. They're great project manager. They're great, but yeah, their people skills, their motivation. Did you feel frustrated? Because you seem very ambitious, right? And to keep moving, but to find, in order to move, you had got you here, but they ain't gonna get you there. Did you find a frustration?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, okay, so when you're in your 20s, you think sometimes I wouldn't say the word entitled, but you feel like you deserve it because you work so hard, like night and day, proving yourself. And no one comes in and tells you, well, you did a great job. You're doing a great job. And you can get that raise, but just not that team lead position, because team lead requires a different set of skills. Of course, you're frustrated when you hear that. What, am I not the kind of person people want to be led by? You kind of make meaning of statements like that.
Yeah.
And why didn't anyone tell me this before? Like, why are you telling me now? And, in your 20s, you think you're already old. For some weird reason, like, oh my God, I'm so old. I need to like have a life. I need to get married. I need to have kids. I don't have time to waste on this. Make me a CEO.
In 1 year.
Yeah, right? I don't think it's like a Gen Z problem. And I think it's just every generation.
Yeah, I remember hearing about trajectory from some of my interviews from new grads, and I thought, wow, good you have dreams. It's always good to have dreams, but we do have to let them know a bit of reality to get to the dream. For sure.
Right.
For sure.
And so you're faced with situations. It's not like, in a year you get a promotion now. You have to work on yourself and work with one or two people and see how. And the feedback is the powerful thing. And I learned while I was being coached to accept feedback, right? Because you think, I'm working really hard. I am being powerful. I am delivering when I'm supposed to deliver. And then you hear feedback as to, okay, so how did you work with this team member? Did you give an equal amount of work to this other team member? Yeah, I think they did. We're working together. So there's a scenario where, okay, let's work on your team building skills. Let's work on your soft skills, right? Let's pair you with 3 other or 4 other people and make sure that you delegate the work properly. So that's how they test whether you are capable of becoming a team lead. And getting that feedback from all these different people and saying, well, Anu was good technically, but and Anu is a little competitive. She could work on collaborating with me. And so I'm like, okay, how does collaboration look? Well, did you delegate the work properly? Did you assess what their strengths are and delegate the work? And when you hear feedback like that, you can take it personally. At least I did. Initially, I did take it personally. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you come to realization, this person is trying to help you, right? This person is trying to get you to that position. So my frustrations were more along the lines of, it's taking me time to get to a manager position. It's taking me time to move up the ladder, right? But I think what was really good was having mentors and coaches that kept saying, it will happen when you're ready. You just need to get there. I also have a flip side to that advice. I guess when I was when I was working my way, woman empowerment is not as strong as it is right now, right?
Yeah.
So there was that field as well. So I would personalize it to it. Is it because I'm a female? You don't think I can handle taking care of so many male team members? So I would personalize things too. So that was part of my journey, right? Making meaning out of evaluations and feedback. And now I teach about how to give good feedback because of that.
Cool. I know there are a lot of people out there who have businesses who are hiring young people, and Gen Zs are starting to come into the market. And if you're in a fast food chain, you probably already have a lot of young people who are Gen Zs. And I remember somebody saying to me, that's it. I don't want to hire another person in this age bracket. The person was in their 20s, but that's it. I don't want to hire any more 25-year-olds. Wait a minute. This is the workforce of the future. Like, you got to learn a little bit about what drives them, what motivates them, and then motivate them. right?
Mhm.
So what advice would you give to people about Gen Zs? Because I think we hear that because of the way they were brought up, they were always getting feedback. As they're doing, if they take Tai Chi, they're getting feedback on how to improve themselves. They almost need feedback. So is that a myth? Is that a reality? And you share your expertise with us on that.
Gen Zs, it depends on where they're coming from, right? If you're just taking Canada, Toronto, and if you're taking a middle class income family, you do provide for them. You do want to ensure, there's at least the many Gen Zs that I teach, there are still expectations set on them as to what they can get out of life. If a Gen Z applies for a fast food restaurant, they haven't looked up, oh, I want to work for Burger King for the rest of my life. So the values, mission, and all that are not, they just want a quick dollar here and there. And that's why they're there, right? It's just like a part-time job. They want a quick dollar. But an employer I think McDonald's has this great program where they coach Gen Zs and they have a program to teach and onboard and share their mission, share their vision so that they integrate with the actual company, right? Whatever their age is. They have not just 20-year-olds coaching them, they have 30-year-olds coaching them. They have intergenerational people coaching them as well. I think when you do that, it really helps breaking it down as to what my vision is, what my mission is. If you're a small business, this is getting them passionate about it because you can actually make a Gen Z love your business, right? If it's a small business, for example, and if you own a little art store, if you share with them why you started this art store and what your mission is, how you're going to expand and getting them excited, it's not that hard to get them excited about something like that. And you could have lifelong employees there. It's not unheard of to have lifelong employees like that, right? So it's just that breaking down, helping sharing those missions, vision, making the onboarding process a little easier, like really breaking down the onboarding process. And also, what are they measured against, right? No surprises here, right? You will get your salary if you do this, and you could get a bonus if you do these extra things and stick to it, right? That really does help.
That's incentivizing them. Thank you for reinforcing mission, vision, and values, because that's a passion of mine. To tell business owners, no matter what size you are, you really should have a mission, vision, and values
Mm-hmm.
because that's your foundation. From that foundation, you hire the people that, have compatible feelings for that mission, vision, and values. And your operations are reflective of that mission, vision, and values, as well as the clients you take. That
Right,
foundation is important in the whole business. And so
right.
thank you for reinforcing that.
And
So
and I also wanted to say that it's a millennial Gen Z thing where we tend to also want to do many things. Like, I think gone is the generation where you sign up for one job and then expect the person to just do that job. They have so many other passions outside of what you're working well. Acknowledge that, right? Support them in
tap
that.
into that.
These are
Sure.
these are kids who want to, yes, serve their clients, but at the same time, serve their passions and their needs. And it starts early on. It's like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. Oh, I want to do this. Well, support them in that. And you will get dedicated employees when you serve them. I feel like we need to serve them with this. Yeah, I've got you. I've got you. I understand where you're coming from. Work with us and we'll support your dreams as well.
People feel more connected when
Mhm.
they feel a part of something. And to be a
Mhm.
part of something, you've got to bring them in. You've got to include them. You've got to help them understand for sure. So we're talking about your business. Let's go back to the day when you said, okay, I can do this. I'm going to turn this on and this is what I'm going to do. Tell us what made you decide to start this business at the time that you started? What was going on as you were one day said, that's it, this is happening. This is the name of my school, and this is what I'm going to do. Share that with us, Anu.
For me, I mean, it's not like a mega story. It obviously happened as I said, everything that happens to a human being, it starts from childhood, right? But if you're talking about that pivoting moment, it was someone watching me teach adults and saying, hey, would you consider teaching young kids? And me going, not so sure if I'm the person. And then saying, okay, why don't we just give it a shot, right? Like, just try it out. And of course, it wasn't easy breezy. Okay, let's start. Let's do this. Everyone loves anyone who loves everyone. No, it was just, okay, let's try it. Let's teach public speaking. I'm part of Toastmasters. I watch people give speeches on stage. I love TED Talks and all that. So I thought, okay, let's start with public speaking because I'm comfortable with it. I know the fundamentals of it. And it was, I think, a few kids' aha moment, not just about going up on stage and calling me and saying, Anu, I felt okay going up on stage today. And it was because of you. And I was like, a kid saying that to me, because people say, oh, kids don't usually say all those things. I'm like, a kid actually did, right? And kids actually show that aha moment more so than adults. Adults have so many layers, so it's so hard to peel out that aha moment. Like you never go and give a lesson to adults and they go, aha, I got it. No, but you actually have kids going, oh, wow, cool. Not everyone does, but kids do that. And it's those little moments that, as a coach, you're like, I think I can make some change at this level, right? And just keep on. That's kind of what changed my trajectory and said, I want to do this. I want to make, it all started with, I want to make a change in one kid's life, and then maybe two, and then three, and now so much more. And that's how it all began.
What would you say were some of the struggles that you had initially? Did you ever feel like giving up, or it was just one day at a time?
Well, yeah, it's giving up right now is just not an option. But it was more so, what are the parents maybe asking me, what are these skills again? Like, okay, public speaking, I get it. What do you mean by leadership skills? Like, what does that even mean? And then you try and train them on something, on negotiation. It's like, okay, that's great. Because our community is so used to dance classes and they used to STEM programs and all those things, but leadership and public speaking, like, what is that all about? It's new, right? It's new for adults. So for kids and for parents, it's newer. And do they really need to know this stuff now? Or can they learn that through osmosis, through their dance classes or through their, sports classes or their leagues or whatever? Maybe you can leave it. You can say, yes, they could learn it through osmosis, but look at us. Like, I was supposed to learn it through osmosis too. I was supposed to figure these things out. Just telling parents, just educating parents that, no, I think you need to show kids that there are frameworks to how to influence people, how to, not necessarily influencers, but how to influence people and how to negotiate, how, even your first job at McDonald's, if you ever have one, how to be client facing, how to communicate, what are your responsibilities? Those are leadership skills that can be broken down and taught to kids. Delegation. So grade 7, 8 kids, they have projects that they do multiple projects. What are your frustrations in projects, for example, and how can we elevate it so that you can be a better team lead in school, a better team captain? So those were not necessarily frustrations, but I had to educate parents and some staff in schools to let them know that leadership skills is really necessary. And there are programs, this is the program for you. So yeah, marketing and sales is definitely.
What would you say are some of the key things that have allowed you to convince parents and the schools that you go into, that these are fundamentals that they should be instilling in the young 10 to 20-year-olds?
I think looking at their short-term goals, right? Associating to your short-term goals. Some parents enroll their kids because they're just shy. And I want them to be able to speak because, I don't want them to be bullied. Some are currently maybe being bullied and they need to understand how to communicate better. All right. Or I want to get into Harvard. I want to get into Princeton. I want to get into U of T, Waterloo, right? You need really strong communication skills. You need to eloquently share what you've learned and be that top candidate, learning to be that top candidate, right? When you explain that, break it down to wherever the kid is at that point in their life. So for example, 8 to 11-year-olds, we're talking about they're exploring the world. Now they want to go out there and communicate or share, or their parents want them to communicate and share.
Mhm.
12, 13, now they're starting to get into this whole, okay, there's bullying, maybe cyberbullying. How do we manage that? How do we become advocates? They're starting to recognize who they are when they're teenagers, right? They want to be advocates for, Black Lives Matter, whatever it is. How can we be an advocate? So working with them through their journey and at what point they are really does help. So when they're 17, they're thinking about, well, not at 17, at 16, they're thinking about universities, 17 also. Okay, how do I make sure that I get noticed for certain universities using my communication skills, using my leadership skills? What volunteer service do I have? All those things. That educating parents on those aspects of things and kids, they start to recognize, oh, these skills are really vital and I must learn these.
So, what would be the other challenges? Obviously, marketing and convincing people to do that. What were some of the others? Like, how did you get your first dollar, for example, or your first client or parent or whatever? How did that happen?
It was my first, I remember, was students who wanted to get into private schools and wanted to go for interviews. And they came to me and they're like, hey, can you just coach my kid? Because they are going to face this mega interview in a private school. And I said, sure, I'll teach you interview techniques and let's go through. That's kind of how I recognize, oh, people are willing to pay me to teach their kids. And teaching, I know there's a lot of career coaches out there, they can follow them too. But breaking it down to kids and even answering the tell me about yourself thing, or what do you love? How do you manage behavior? Because in some private schools, they ask tough behavioral questions. How do you manage that with SOAR? Whatever I use SOAR, but whatever way you can manage interviews. So that's how I got my first few clients. And then it was kind of word of mouth and me putting it out there and saying, hey, I teach public speaking. Would you like? And that whole public speaking component is what opens the doors and people come in because they know what public speaking is. Yes, I want my child to be on stage, or I want my child to be able to communicate. Okay. And educating them, okay, after public speaking, there are all these other leadership skills. Hey, are you interested in that? And that's kind of how I take
For
them.
those who are listening who might not know what SOAR is, can you share what the acronym is for SOAR? just to refresh people's memory, or what is SOAR?
It's situation. Give us what the situation is. What is the obstacle that you faced, and the action, and then the result, right? So when you're given a behavioral question, if you're in a team and one team member is not really listening to you or not playing really well with you, how did you manage it? So if you were in that situation, explain that situation. Take a deep breath, think through it, because just an interviewer just asked you that question. Take a deep breath, think through it, and then take out that framework. Was I in that situation? Yes. Okay, explain that situation. What were those obstacles that you faced? Did that person have family issues, whatever it is? And then what action did you take? Did you have a conversation with them? Simple things. I mean, from a kid perspective, did you have a conversation with them to understand what was going on? And what was the end result? Was it positive, or did you go the other route?
When you said the first few clients that you had were people who were, it's one-on-one, they've got a situation, an interview. When did you decide? Because I think I heard you say people asked me to do this, and it sounded like you were doing it on after, like you still were working in your job and you were doing this, and suddenly you decided that, hey, I can do a living. When did you switch from being, an employee who is doing this work to saying, I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to make a go of it? Was
So,
was it an
so Hilda,
evolution,
I'm
or was
still
it like that?
so Hilda, I'm still an employee and I
Okay.
do this. So that's how I'm working right now. It's two. I'm an employee and I do this because these are extracurricular activities at this point, right? Where children choose to do this, or parents enroll students after school. You can do that as an employee and as an entrepreneur.
Right.
But the seriousness, I mean, before it would be, a few years ago, it would be 2 or 3 is good enough for me, right? Now that that doesn't work. Now it's about, I'm on this mission. I really want to make an impact, and as much as possible, really come up with good programs, even go to schools. I do go to schools and I share this program with them. I take it more seriously
Okay.
and I'm growing it at this point.
Right. When I read about some of the things you're doing, like you got somebody to do who does TED Talks to come and speak to your students. Like, how do you do that? Like, okay, it's not part of your job, but this is part of your life now that you're absorbing, and you're finding these amazing people to come and speak.
People, like, they want to make a difference too. They recognize, right? They recognize that it's not mainstream out there just as yet. We spend so much time educating adults about these things, but not kids. And the idea of teaching kids can be nerve-wracking to adults. Like, this is really complex stuff, right? Even what you mentioned about TED Talks, going on TED stages. Yes, there are some kids who are open to standing on TED stages, but what is the process? Why don't we encourage them? These are next generation leaders, right? So give them enough information to put them on that stage. What makes a TED speaker? It means that you need to volunteer, not need to, you're passionate about a cause and you're volunteering, you're spending time, you've got these aha moments that now you want to share with the world. And that's what makes you a TED speaker. So when I approach these speakers and say, hey, there are these kids who would love to hear from you, and this is the reason why they would love to hear from you. I had someone talk about listening, right? Just the skill of listening. Even the students were like, well, I know how to listen. Do you really know how to listen? Like, listen is a skill. And to get someone and go to the speaker. So it was Oliver. And I just said, how do, when children are faced with difficult situations where they are not getting along with each other, what is that one skill that you can teach? And it's like listening. We can teach them how to listen better. And getting speakers to open up about those 1 or 2 skills that you can teach that they had wished that they had learned when they were younger is what grabs speakers, right? It's like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I would like to teach kids about listening or TED Talks or whatever it is. Yeah.
And there's so many people now who have found their passion and are certainly happy to share what that passion is.
Mm-hmm.
But kudos to you for finding people that can really help, the youth of tomorrow, to give them that confidence and that capability, because so many people don't, necessarily know how to do that. So in your business now, then you are starting to scale. As you say, I'm taking it more seriously. And I can see where when this notion catches on, that you will be an in-demand person. Other people will say, hey, I can do that too. I'm gonna do that program. But it's so important to really reach young people. I remember we went to the Henry Ford Museum with our kids when they were, I don't know, 8, 10 or whatever. And there was this one section where essentially you were on an assembly line building things, and we had to work together as a team. And I thought, what a powerful exhibit this is, because if students are going through school, and they get here, they learn how to make the engine work. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
were to power something, but you had to do it collaboratively. And I thought, why can't we in our education system create these exercises to help them with team building, with collaboration. Yes, we put them into projects to work together, right? But
Yeah.
do teachers give them some fundamental tools on how to be better at developing that project from a team perspective? How do you deal with when people can't pull their weight? Teach them how to do these things, right? I mean, you and I
Yes.
had some discussions offline about this, and we just get really charged up about what can the education system do better to bring
Mm-hmm.
these people to that kind of confidence, that collaboration, and even the notion of who do I want to be when I grow up? You talked about your parents and your expectations. Now you missed one part that you shared with me earlier. Said this was my expectation. I was to go get a computer engineering degree, get married, and there was one other thing I knew.
Well, in high school, I I don't know. Someone asked me to act. This was back in the times where I'm not sure if you saw the show Mind Your Language. It was a BBC comedy. And they needed a role for the Muslim guy, who's Ali Nadim, I still remember. And I said, sure, why not? Let's do this. I mean, how hard can it be, right? It was hard because you had to learn the lines, you had to prepare whatever. In those days, it's like I was not I loved it, but not as motivated to go and research about it or do anything about it. So I just carried on in my mellow way and always did little roles, like, any community programs asking for a little girl or whichever stage I was in my life, I would just go on stage and do those things. But I think that acting bug hit me when I got a speaker for my Gen Z public speaking and leadership class. Her name was Sharon Muthu, and she's a voiceover artist. And she came and she talked about her profession and everything. And I was like, damn, I wish I could do this. And she's like, yeah, you can do this. I was like, really? Like, yeah, just you can. And having someone supportive to just say, why don't you just give it a shot? Just take a few classes. And I think September 2020, I started taking a few classes and I loved it. And acting and as a skill, how to come up on stage, how to use that acting bug on stage as a public speaker. They work in alignment with each other. So yeah, so there's another tool that I put in my toolbox that I'm sharing with students that I teach.
So it's interesting because before you talked about the fact that that was an expectation, no acting was in that. And then just as we were getting ready to start the interview, you said, and I'm taking acting now. And he said, see, we have these passions and, as children, we don't know better. Like we listen to our parents, they have expectations and maybe we're fine with that. But then later on in as we become adults and we say, I really like that, and serendipitously, why don't you do that? And now you're doing that. When you talk, I see your eyes light up. You're very expressive, you're very animated, and you can hear your passion. You can hear
Mhm.
your passion, and you can convince parents that this is good for their children, that it will help them. Those skills are so needed. And the earlier you practice it and you come into your own as to who you are, the more confident you'll be. So you're offering this very, very great service to our young people of today.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Where to next? Like what's the next stage for the development of your company? What do you envision doing, say, a year or two down the line, and how are you going to get there?
I definitely want to expand in a few different areas. One, with COVID, I recognize that we can do this online. Before it was like brick and mortar. It had to be brick and mortar. You have to go in. I'm finding that enrollment is much better when it's online, right? To your program. Schools are willing to work online as well. I would love to get into more schools, public especially. I've had success with private schools, but public schools all over Ontario is what my goal is right now, just to go and share my program and say, hey, I would love to teach your kids. I would love to make better leaders out of them through interactive measures. That's like my 1 to 2 year goal at this point. And of course, every entrepreneur has an international dream, right? So it's like,
Not every entrepreneur, but many, yes.
many entrepreneurs have this international dream. And hopefully I can get to that point as well. But that's a very long-term dream. But I know there is a huge need for it. And the pie is huge, and we can teach slivers of whatever form of leadership it is. I could focus just on public speaking and just on maybe mediation, or 2 or 3 skills, and expand on those programs. Or, I mean, the world's your oyster, I guess.
What would you say are a couple of the key successes you've had along this journey of your entrepreneurship?
I think scaling to the amount of students that I'm now able to get to teach, seeing value, seeing schools agreeing that there is this huge value in teaching these skills, that's a big win to me. To tell you the truth, that's a big win, because there was a moment where I would just email schools and go, hey, I've got this program, whatever. And they'll be like, whatever, like what? It's not something that we do. And then, you go in, you talk to people, and you're like, no, this is what it's all about. Now people are more accepting of this. They're like, yeah, I definitely see value in it. And I think that is a huge win as an entrepreneur, right?
What do you think made that change? What made that shift from knocking on, the doors or sending emails and people just send it to trash right away or whatever, and now they're listening? Where do you think that shift happened for you?
Kids play a huge role in that. Kids ask for you, right? So when when I walk in, when I teach one class, right? I do a program for one class. And then, of course, I say I offer this other program. And then I walk into the same class with the same students, and the eyes light up. Teachers see that, and all the testimonials as well. Like these loving, sweet testimonials written by kids, and I share them with these teachers. I think that makes a huge difference. It's like, okay, these kids see value, and they say how it's helped them manage a bullying situation, how it's helped them manage a mental health situation, how it's helped them go up on stage and be a better dancer, be a team captain, right, in their own sports league. There's like these results that these kids write and show when you ask them for testimonials, and that moves teachers and that moves adults. Because, as parents, you want to do the best for your kids. And when your kids are saying, yeah, I love this, I love this class. I actually said my first speech, and yes, I was nervous, but it didn't feel that bad. It was good. And it was so supportive. And I have the confidence to talk to an adult, a stranger even, right? I can network. Things like that, simple things like that. When kids go and tell their parents or tell their school officials, teachers, it makes a huge difference. It makes it easier for me to now knock on people's door and go, hey, guess what? Know me? I knew. And they're like, yeah, come on in, right? So it really does help.
And just thinking what you do, what kind of impact that has on a person who starts to gain confidence at 10 or 12 to speak in front of an audience. What kind of leader will that person be? What kind of speaker will that person be when they're 20, when they're 30, when they're 50? They say that leaders, I'm just stating some statistics, leaders who get promoted, the average age is 36. It can be as early as 25 and up to 40, but the average age is 36. And the average age that companies or people get training on being leaders, 40. So there's a 4-year gap between, hey, I'm a boss now. Guess what I'm going to do for 4 years? I'm going to do what I want, make mistakes like crazy, and then get some training and be a little bit better. So imagine what you are doing at 10, what that's going to happen. It just sounds so powerful and so exciting.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, I was one of those people, right? I was one of those people when someone approached me and asked me to teach kids, I was like, I'm not sure if they will understand this, but kids absorb these things, and you can truly, like I mentioned to you, there's so many layers to an adult. Not that kids don't have many layers, but the layers are fewer, right? And so you can They can even unlearn certain things. They might have some limiting beliefs, which they can unlearn faster than a 36 or a 40-year-old, right? It could take more time. And we spend an immense amount of money on, the 30 plus, 40 plus leaders. And they go for training, which is like $10,000, $50,000, $80,000. And I'm thinking, hey, great, good training there, but maybe we can capture them here and tell them what makes an exceptional leader, and how can you use your uniqueness to become that leader, to make those products, to scale those companies, change the trajectory of leadership. I think teaching kids that at such a young age really makes a huge difference.
I so agree with you because they are being leaders in the schoolyard, in their team, in their project work together. There are leaders, and collaborators, and so many skills that can be learned, and the confidence to speak in public, right? I've so enjoyed our conversation today.
I did too, Hilda. I really do hope that whatever we talk, if someone can take something out of it, whether it's an entrepreneur or whether it's a kid out there or a parent who's trying to figure out,
Yeah.
hey, maybe my kid needs this, whatever way, shape, or form, I'm just hoping that I being of service. And that's what this is all about, right? Just being of service.
Well,
That's why we become entrepreneurs.
I think I can see you growing your business and gaining strength in that growth, and really it's a meaningful thing, and it's really going to help a lot of people a lot earlier than at the age of 30 or 40.
There's nothing wrong in learning these things at 30. You could have to me, I'm like, age is truly just a number, but I'm just, if we can learn it earlier, we have much more to learn when we hit 30 or 40.
I heard the urgency of time earlier in our conversation when you said, I wanted to be really good, and I thought that those layers. And when you said those layers, like, I forget the true word, but the layers seem like they were this high, right? To me. And you are a woman, it sounds like, needs to have things happen, not in years, maybe in a year, half a year, but not in years, right? You want to make things happen. So I hear that to you, you're doing this because I want people to have what they want when they need it sooner than I did. So this makes sense for me to teach 10 to 20-year-olds. So
yeah, the thing is, I wanted to say, I know that there are things called entitled millennials or entitled Gen Zers. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't like that whole entitled thing. It's just, let's see when the way education is done now, it's done online. You get it on your fingertips. If I have a doubt, I go on Google, I can figure things out. So why is this whole, to promote a person, it takes 3 years or 4 years? Do we really need to have those performance metrics, right? A person might be eligible to be promoted to another level in 1 year. Of course, they need to do a lot of things to get to that spot, but I think a motivated human being can do that. So teaching kids to be motivated, to know those leadership skills, and then, they could move up the ladder. They could build multiple companies, and they could do it in a shorter time frame, right? I think that is definitely possible. And we just change the world as we see it.
well, thank you very much for joining me on Rev Up Your Potential today. How do people get a hold of you?
Well, they can get a hold of me. I am on LinkedIn as Anu Yogeshwaran, and so that's ANU space YOGESWARAN. I'm also on Instagram, same name. And of course, they can email me through anu.yogeshwaran@gmail.com. And I post all about my speakers there, the wonderful speakers that come to my class. I'm also starting a YouTube channel. But at the moment, these are the ways to connect with me.
Cool. Well, I'm going to be looking forward to hearing about your YouTube channel and what you're going to do for the young people of today. Thank you, Anu, for being part of our podcast. I really enjoyed having you.
Thank you, Hilda.
You're welcome. And for those of you who listened, I think we had a great interview. I think there's a lots of things that I learned, particularly for your business, how you grew it, and to think what you can do and what we can learn from what you shared with us about Gen Zs and the future of how we can help them grow and get entrenched into the workplace. So thank you very much. And thank you for you who are listening to Rev Up Your Potential, a podcast that helps you understand the successes and the struggles of entrepreneurs through their stories. Thank you very much and stay safe.